Howdy, and welcome to the MrMaple Show. I'm Tim.
Ahoy! Set sail with the Maple Brothers. We're on another maple adventure. I'm Matt. Today we've got another walkthrough at Buchholz Nursery for you.
Yeah, in this we're going to cover some of the ponds, we're going to cover some of the Blue Forest area, and we're going to cover some of the waterfall area and the grotto area where Tal and Buchholz got married.
Yeah, there's a fun holding pond down here. There's a lot of cool plants around it, some big ginkgos. They've actually had some Roosevelt elk come down to this area, which is pretty cool. From time to time, they get Roosevelt elk in this area, which are actually the biggest elk in the United States. They have about 30% less horns than the elk that you see in Colorado, but about 30% bigger bodies.
One of the things I really liked when we purchased Buchholz Nursery is Tal had really secured good water rights. And this pond is actually a big part of that. We actually use a lot of this pond for irrigation. It's actually comes in from a local river, comes in here, and this is how all the nursery is actually watered at Buchholz Nursery. It's pumped through all the greenhouses and through overhead irrigation.
Yeah, there's a whole filtration system. It's crazy. It's a bunch of technical stuff involved. But this is one of our many holding ponds. There's actually two on the ground. Great water rights there. They're one of the reasons that made it a real joy to kind of purchase Buchholz. A couple Canada geese coming by there as well. Maybe we'll see a big cougar jump out and grab them.
It's also just a fun place to go down and enjoy because water features just add that nice little softness to the garden, a place to go and relax.
Now, possibly in 2026, the American Conifers Society may be coming to do an event here. We've started talking about that, maybe a joint thing with the Maple Society. We'll see. But we're going to be having some events out here at Buchholz Nursery so some people can get out and see these grounds for themselves. There's some phenomenal plants, be it ginkgos, maples, conifers, so many kind of historic plants around this area. And there's just so much going on. No matter what season you're there, there's something interesting.
Everywhere I turn at Buchholz Nursery, I see plants that I haven't seen before because it's hard to walk through and cover 25 acres and then be focused at looking at everything because you walk by and you see a cool plant and then you miss another plant because you're staring at one. This is one of those areas where it just surprises me how many cool plants are planted up here in the gardens. There's a cool ginkgo over here on the left, some cool junipers around. And guys, he's even got a lot of fairy hairs hidden around back here in the back here behind the pond, behind the waterfall near the grotto.
You know something crazy? I've never walked up this path. So I'll be owners for a year in September. I've actually never been up here. I have looked at it from the gazebo over there, but I've never actually been up this path. I didn't know this path existed, so it's kind of cool to see from this side. There's another couple areas that I've never been to still. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but it's a beautiful grounds, and there's some great plants. And every time I go there, I try to explore something I haven't spent time checking out. And yeah, here's one of those fairy hairs. You can actually see this from the gazebo.
And Talon really focused a lot on landscaping, cool plants around everywhere, but he also did a lot of hardscaping. So there's a lot of rocks all around through these gardens, lots of cool plants. You just walk out of a greenhouse and you're into another garden.
I think Talon told us he got $1 million worth of slate down. So it's probably not wrong about that. There's a lot of slate on this ground, beautiful rocks. Nothing goes better with maples than rocks and conifers. So, I mean, like this area is just, it's got it all going on.
Look at that fair hair glowing right there.
Yeah, that's a good angle. See, I've never been at this angle. That's kind of goofy to why haven't I been back here?
And it's crazy. The more you walk around this place, the more things just begin to just speak to you. I mean, look at those rocks. Look at that fairy hair. Look at the way these conifers pair so well with the Japanese maples. It's just an amazing place to walk around, and you just get overwhelmed. I mean, when you start looking at all these awesome plants that have been in the ground for 20 plus years.
Yeah, here's a closer look at that fairy hair. Behind it back there is the Blue Forest. We've done a walkthrough of that before. This is kind of another angle from the other side of the waterfall, looking back and getting in that fairy hair. I mean, it's such a fun tree. There's two here older than this one at the nursery, and maybe even a couple more older than this one. But there is an ancient one that's close to 45 years old. That's the second graft ever. There's two of that set, one in the ground and one for sale here at Buchholz Nursery.
Now, Talon was often impressed with the ones that were in the ground because when they had their extreme high heats and some other trees' foliage burned, the fairy hair didn't, which surprised me how tough it was in Oregon during those high heat times.
This is such a relaxing garden, though. Now, see, I do get to the other side of this little waterfall a good bit. There's some chairs down here by the gazebo pavilion, whatever you want to call it. I like to go in there and just sit down and just soak it all in sometimes. Sometimes when we're there for a couple days, I'll go spend at least an hour sitting in that just to get away from everybody, just to kind of have some water and just kind of look back at that blue forest. It's a very reflective place, and just kind of take it all in. So I like this area a good bit.
Well, Talon got married there, and that's sentimental to him. That's the place where I first got a Talon Buchholz poster, right. And that's also the place where I first saw a graft of Acer palmatum rainbow.
That's true. We were freaking out. We got to go to Talon Buchholz's place in 2009. He actually had a table set up in there, and I wasn't one of the first ones in, so I didn't receive a free Makawi Etsubusa seedling, but he was giving out a few liner Makawi Etsubusa seedlings from the big, giant, biggest Makawi anybody ever seen back then in 2009. So just an area that's just, it's got a lot of rich treasure here, and it's also an area that's just kind of reflective. I mean, I like to get back here and just kind of chill a little bit, think about my goals, think about what I want to do with Buchholz Nursery and Mr. Maple, and just be thankful to God for this is our garden now. It's kind of crazy to even see.
I know when Mom and Dad came and visited, we took them there for their 50th anniversary. That's one of the areas that Mom said she wished she could bring back to her house. The pond, the water feature, the gazebo. It's because it's so relaxing just to be able to, be in the garden and enjoy it.
Yeah, we've if you watched our original video of our tour of Buchholz Nursery, there's some drone footage there. You'll see a lot of these areas are empty that have the stock blocks in there. We filled those back up. There's a lot of areas filling back up at Buchholz Nursery. There's more product right now at Buchholz Nursery than there's been in 10 years plus. So we're really trying to get it back to those 09 numbers, where it's it's really a force to be reckoned with out there if we're producing all the coolest plants. I love this area though. There's some cool plants in this area that are conifers that weren't even previously named. Our nurserymen there at Buchholz Nursery, they're there all the time, Joel Johnson and Jordan Ellis, they've really just helped identify some of the best specimens in here and get them into production. So there's some things in here that are 20-year-old specimens that Talon never named, and they've been great at kind of persuading him to either put names on it or asking him why, and giving them further evaluation. But there's some cool things in the works that we're just hanging out back here.
I can't believe, literally they were like, Talon, why haven't you named it? Well, I never did. What? It's an amazing plant, isn't it? Yeah, it's a great plant. I just never put a name on it.
Right.
It just blows my mind that there were plants in this garden that had been there for a long time that Talon wasn't even really producing and hadn't put a good name on it.
I think this is why the staff gets so much done at Buchholz Nursery. These are the only chairs on the property. They got 3 and they're hidden down here. There's a lot going on, though. I love this area. Again, I come and sit in this area and look back at that pond reflectively a lot. I really enjoy that. It's kind of just a serene, peaceful environment. There's a lot of nature going on out here, too. I mean, this area actually has a ton of vibrant nature still involved there, and it's just really peaceful.
Look at the hardscaping, though. Look how he used that with the waterfall as well. It just ties in so well to the blue forest area beside of it, where he uses so much other water, so much other rocks around the garden. It just ties that water feature in with that. And it's so amazing to see these trees out here in the garden.
This lower part has a ton of greenhouses down here. We've walked you through a few of those in the past. Just a beautiful overall area. And there's so much really you can do here. Again, we're in the works to possibly get a 2026 tour going here with the American Conifer Society. And I'll be excited to open the gardens up. I think that gives us some time to work on them, some time to really prepare. But I think if you're part of that meeting, you'll really enjoy getting to see it. They're hoping to spend a full day here on the grounds at Buchholz Nursery. And I think a day is about how much time it takes if you want to see it, to be honest with you. There's so many things in the greenhouses, but there's so much garden and pond and related stuff. I mean, I took Mom around the golf cart because one trip really, you can't knock everything out here. There's areas I haven't even been to yet.
And we go for 3 or 4 days to rent to Buchholz Nursery, sometimes a week. And it's hard to see it even in that time frame, let alone how long, a day is. I mean, you think you go visit this in an hour? No. You think you can visit in a day? You can get some of the highlights done in a day. Some
really big autumn gold ginkgos back there. Some great fall color, kind of flashes with that native background back there. And then again, here is some of the blue forest. This is kind of a different entry point from our other video on the blue forest. We're coming in from the bottom. Before we started up top and brought you this way, there's some fun plants in here, guys. There's some brooms. This is an unnamed tree right here. That's a variegated pine in the front.
Variegated Japanese white pine.
Yeah, go check out our top 5 conifers or top conifers getting names at Buchholz Nursery. are under evaluation. There's some fun ones in there. Absolute treasures. And a collection of a lifetime in here, too. I mean, there's so many conifers in the Blue Garden, Blue Forest, that they're just treasures. You won't see some of these bigger specimens.
I mean, you see those Chamaecyparis nucatensis just given that narrow shape, but also just given that upright and weeping habit. Then, I mean, it's spectacular. And then you throw in all these dwarf conifers around there, some conifers, and then the rock. I mean, you understand why Talon says he had $1 million worth of rock on this ground.
Probably did. We've been slow to add plants back, too. We're going to be getting some stock plants back out in the ground. We've been really just appreciating what it is and what we have here first, and not trying to mess it up, so not overcrowding it. But we are starting to add some more conifers and maples back to some of these areas. It's always a work in progress with gardens like this. And one of our deals with buying this garden and nursery from Talon is that we would maintain the gardens. So there's a lot of work that goes into the maintenance of these gardens. Our staff is awesome at Buchholz Nursery, but part of the deal is that the gardens have to be kept up to a certain standard. So our team spends a lot of time making sure these plants, they have the utmost care going on with these plants. That they're not just neglected. They're plants that are kind of babied. Our top people are out there sometimes pruning reversions out or shaping up a plant. It's amazing the care the team puts into this. And I'm excited to share it with you guys. If nothing else, through videos like this. Again, we may try to plan some future events where we can do meet and greets out here. Tim and I do live in North Carolina, so we're not always out in Oregon. And that's the beauty of having such a great staff, too. We don't have to be here all the time. But, man, I have to get out here almost every other month. It's hard for me to stay away. I love the gardens. I love what's happening. And it just gets me fired up for Japanese maples and conifers. This is what I love. This is our passion. And so to see it come into fruition and what's going on here, it's so much fun. And you'll see these areas, like I was talking about, these stock block areas of plants. They're not stocks, but a lot of these plants will be for sale in the background back here. A lot of these areas are as full as they've ever been.
Check out right here, we're passing on the right, Acer macrophyllum mocha rose. That's one of the original mocha roses. That is a pink, shrimp pink, big leaf, big tooth maple.
That actually is the first seedling. That's the original.
And here we're coming up around Picea pungens dietz prostrate, grown in a mass planting and just allowed to spread out, given a sea of blue color. There's just so many cool plants. Everywhere you turn in here is just an amazing plant. And then getting to see them in specimens, it's fantastic. And this blue forest, it is mass planting of conifers with Japanese maples and maples sprinkled in. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of the other gardens are maple focused with conifer sprinkled. This garden in particular, conifer heavy with a few maples.
There's so much going on in here. And again, our staff here puts a lot of time each week into maintaining these gardens, to making sure they look impeccable. It's just so much fun. I could spend a lifetime. I mean, Talon's been gardening these grounds for close to 50 years. I think I could spend the next 40 years just for photographing this place. Like, you couldn't get it. If you went around and took we do a lot of shorts on our channel of some of the cool things in the ground. I think if you had a full-time staff member that just went around and did shorts on every plant in the garden, you couldn't get it done.
I think we're coming up here on Picea AB's Thunderstruck.
Yeah. If I like to name trees after friends of mine. My best friend passed away during COVID, Justin Stepp, and he was a big AC/DC fan. So they were playing around with names for this. And I like to name trees after people. If you've seen Hot Blonde and Pink Princess and Daddy's Girl, I don't tend to call them Tinsley. I tend to call it Daddy's Girl. So I like to put trees that have names about people on there. And Thunderstruck was an homage to my best friend that passed.
Now, this is Acer palmatum eye candy, a selection by Buchholz Nursery. It's sort of spelled very funny, Ikandi, a play on words. And it is one of the very pink, extremely pink, reticulated variegated types, found as a chance seedling by the big Alpenwise at the back of the office.
Yeah, we actually have a full video on that. If you want to watch, we do a breakdown of where this came from, some of the different specimens around the Arboretum. There's just so much going on. I mean, I love you're in a blue forest and then you just, bam, eye candy. It's like sensory overload. Some Sherman's Nordlich here. So many cool plants, though. There's a ton of weeping conifers, dense, small conifers. There's just such a mix of textures and colors. Talon's made a lot of attention at putting reds and things in there, but blue is the overall theme in this garden. So you get a blue forest with some accents and highlights within there.
I mean, right over the corner here, you see Picea AB's Gold Drift. And then you start looking around, and everywhere you look, he's thinking color contrast with blue. Mm-hmm. Yellows, greens, reds, pinks. And that's what I love gardening with too, is you start out with a theme and then you plant contrast. That's a fun way to landscape.
Guys, I could walk you through this garden forever. We'll keep doing more videos where we kind of give you little highlights and show you pieces of it. There's so many botanical treasures within this garden. Again, that's back up to that mocha rose. That actually is the original one from my understanding. Maybe the first graft. If it's not the original seedling, it's the very first graft off from the original seedling. And this was just starting to wake up. So it's a little later to wake up, but that shrimp pink color, insane. Goes to kind of a mauve white later in the season. But man, early spring, that thing just glows.
One of the fun parts about buying Buchholz Nursery was not only getting the grounds, but getting these large specimens. I mean, being able to appreciate things like this giant Giro Shadari right here.
I jumped up inside that thing. I made it into a tent. I got up in there and could stand up. That's how big that is. You might not realize how massive that guy is from this shot, but man, that thing is a beast.
Look at that Chief Joseph back there in the background, that bright yellow.
There's two of them. Yeah, check out our yellow conifers at Buchholz video. And guys, we haven't taken you through most of the nursery yet. We're still focused on the grounds. There's so much to go see here. We do a lot of highlights of cool plants from within the nursery when we're out there. You see over here on the very left, the world's largest Macawi Etsabusa. Again, you're pretty far away from it. You should see it when it's. I'm standing next to it for full perspective. The tree's width is well over 20-something feet. I would guess 22 to 25 feet in width.
The problem is, in about another 10 years, we may have to move the road because it's going to start growing out into the road and blocking cars.
Here's one of the planet's largest fairy hares back here as well.
Oh, man, that is spectacular.
I love that one when it gets into its pink fall color and just kind of glows.
And here we are back on that Macawi Etsabusa. I don't know if you see those red samaras right there. Those are the seeds that this tree will be having, that we'll be collecting to hopefully find some more interesting Macawa variants in the future.
Yeah, you've heard it, but Mayday and Japanese Princess are both progeny from this amazing plant here. Go watch our video on the Macawa Seedling Factory. We kind of show you the process there and a little bit of what's going on at Buchholz Nursery toward cool and interesting new Macawa variants.
That's the coolest thing about this garden, is everywhere you turn, there's something that's just spectacular. Like, look at this Kurenai Jishi right there. We'll just pass by it real quick. Red lion's head Japanese maple rocking it out. The world's largest Macawi Etsabusa, though. I mean, that is awesome. Oh, he's going underneath. He's doing it.
Yeah, Talon uses this as his Christmas card sometimes with snow. That thing is... I don't even know if this does it justice for how big it is. Once you're actually in there, you realize how big this plant is. It looks smaller than it actually is from here. I mean, this thing is so wide, so tall, probably 14, 15 feet tall, but probably closer to 22 feet wide. It's got the growth, the old age, the gnarly bark, everything you want in an old Macawa, and just a showstopper.
We hope you enjoyed today's video. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.